green beer.
Green beer today.
Chris Clements.
Well, I'm green money.
Yeah, there you go. We are green beer and green money here on St. Patrick's Day.
I've always been more of a forest green type of person.
Really? Versus lime green?
Well, or the bright green.
Yeah.
I think it was growing up in Sholo, our colors were green and gold. Forest green and gold.
Oh, wow. Yeah. You sing too.
Well, I used to.
That's great.
Not great.
Well, we are,
green beer.
We're doing this on St. Patrick's Day.
Yes.
And on St. Patrick's Day, a lot of times I just talk like this the whole time. And it drives my family up the wall.
I'm sure it does.
Oh, my gosh.
I'm already annoyed.
I would be annoyed.
I don't have a good Irish accent, and I've got a little. I did 23andMe, and well, I knew from my mom working on genealogy that I have some Irish, but not as much as I thought I did.
Yeah,
it's mostly English. Well, I've got Scandinavian, German, Icelandic.
Well,
I guess is the Scandinavian is the Icelandic. Yeah, really.
No, I can't.
And 23andMe, and I don't even know how. Icelandic.
It's interesting. I've always been really fascinated with the Irish culture ever since I was a kid, and I saw. We're digressing, but we're ranting right now. And I saw
it's St. Patrick's Day. We can talk about this.
The whole sectarian violence, the whole IRA thing was full blown when we were kids back in 1978, 1979, 1980. I remember this guy named Bobby Sands, who was arrested for the Lord Mountbatten bombing, and he was undergoing a hunger strike. And I was fascinated by that as a kid. Like, who starves themselves in prison to make a point when they're clearly in the wrong, but they're starving themselves to make a point? And I became fascinated with the entire Irish question. And then somewhere along that journey, I became a massive U2 fan, and have followed that journey to
Sunday,
the
Bloody
present
Sunday.
Sunday, Bloody Sunday to the present day.
So there's a Netflix show called The Dairy Girls, and I've just been watching it with my wife. It is hilarious, but it is set, seems like it's late 80s, early 90s based on the music. But it's crazy because they're walking around and you see guys with machine guns.
Yeah.
And that was a normal course of action being in, because they're somewhere close to the Irish and Northern Ireland border.
Yeah, it seems unfathomable in today's understanding of the world that Protestants and Catholics could be literally at war with one another. And with the English, stirring the pot.
Yeah, it's
all together. And the U2 reference. I was watching an interview actually with Bono. Maybe it was a couple of days ago, and he was talking about the creation of that song, Sunday Bloody Sunday. He was talking about growing up in Ireland. His father was Catholic, his mother was Protestant. His father's parents did not come to the wedding. And they lived in this. They were living in an alternative universe, and yet he had these very strong influences, and so that's why he's been really sort of this. He's had this idea that religion is the problem. It's not the answer. Jesus is the answer. And what he was trying to do with a song like Sunday Bloody Sunday, which people completely misinterpreted when it came out. People thought it was a Republican song, meaning for the Republic of Ireland, for the IRA. And it wasn't that at all. It was trying to juxtapose what happened in the 70s with the British paratroopers opening fire on a peaceful protest in Derry, and the resurrection. That's what he was trying to do. And it was a peaceful protest song. And yet, like Jerry Adams of the IRA, Sinn Féin, sort of, co-opted it and all these different things. And today, like St. Patrick's Day, I think, kind of reminded of what's going on in Ukraine as well, because every day there's a Sunday Bloody Sunday.
Yeah, and it's frightening. It's amazing. Zelensky's demonstrated incredible courage and leadership. He spoke to Congress a couple days ago.
Yesterday.
Was that yesterday?
That was yesterday.
Wow.
Yeah. Feels like that was 2 days ago.
Feels like that was 2 days ago. 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 I guess because it was so early. Now that the time change, it's like
It was early in the
DC.
morning.
It's halfway. By the time we wake up, it's halfway through the day in DC. But it'll be interesting to see. I think that this news this morning and last night about the peace talks, 15-point plan. I think that's a head fake by Russia. I don't think they're serious about this.
I completely agree. I mean, what the Russians do is they say they want peace talks, but meanwhile they're blowing up theaters with women
kids
and children.
Yeah, that are clearly marked as a place where women and children are.
And where they're sheltering.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Russians are brutal. The only thing they understand is brute force. So it's going to be what will be the tipping point where NATO does something. And there will be a tipping point because that's exactly what I think Russia wants.
Do you think Putin wants to escalate to the point where it becomes a potential nuclear issue?
I think if we're not willing to send in, old MiG airplanes, if we're not willing to do everything that it takes in terms of supplying the Ukrainians with weapons and whatever they need, and I'm not advocating a no-fly zone per se, but even if we're not willing to enforce whatever red lines that we place out there, then it will escalate. It'll get worse. We have to be willing to checkmate him on a lot of different levels and provide the Ukrainians what they need.
Yeah. Well, and I think coming out of the speech to Congress, many members were saying some are getting closer to some type of no-fly zone, for a limited one for humanitarian reasons. Still some risks there, but certainly we can provide planes and anti-aircraft, missiles and that kind of thing to Ukraine to defend themselves. I mean,
well, the lead editorial in the Wall Street Journal today is why not victory? Why not victory in Ukraine? Why not allowing the Ukrainians to defend themselves to where they actually defeat the Russians and then dictate their own terms? Why not?
It's a great question, which is a question
possible. And if it is possible, why aren't we investing in that possibility?
Well, and there's nobody on the planet, other than maybe Zelensky and people in Ukraine, 2 weeks ago that would have thought this was even an option to have that question.
Which
everybody assumed that Russia was going to just march in and crush them.
Well, this is why I ask another question. We keep asking, what is Putin's end game? What is Biden's end game? What was his end game from the beginning? Because he allowed this to happen. All the different sanctions and the arming of the military could have happened 6-8 months ago.
Yeah.
Could have happened 6-8 months ago. And sent a clear message that you're not going to do what you think you're going to do, Mr. Putin.
Biden just hoped it would go away.
Or is this Biden's revenge? Because it's being reported in the New York Post lead out editorial today about all the different dealings that his son, Hunter Biden's had with the oligarchs of Russia.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just a convoluted
messy. Well, and our own Mark Kelly has been
pushing
is
back.
Mark Kelly? Well, he's pushing back against the plane transfer for Ukraine.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah.
That's unbelievable. I had not read that.
Yeah, it's in Politico this morning.
Yeah, that's probably why I haven't read it. Yeah. Politico is like the last thing I read during the day.
I don't know. It's
unfortunately so. I probably should read more.
No, I don't think. Why? Why?
I've actually been to their offices. They're quite impressive.
So many times, there's only so much time. So what you read, what you listen to. It's why we hope that you continue to listen to Light Beer Dark Money, because we can give you good information in a
spirited fashion.
In spirited fashion.
So why?
As long as Chris isn't trying to be Irish.
As long as I'm not trying to be the Irishman I am. So why is Mark Kelly against transferring old MiG airplanes so that Zelensky can defend himself?
I think he's in the position that this is an escalation. So when Putin says, if you supply...
And sending Patriot missile batteries is not an escalation?
I mean,
Well, I guess
maybe
we
he's
have
against
those
that
on the
too. I
Polish
don't know.
border, but I mean, it's still, I think they should go all in with that.
Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense.
I don't know.
Send them in.
Mark, welcome to come on the podcast and let
Yeah,
us know.
but he wanted to carve out a special, tax break for gas guzzlers too.
It's, I mean, suspending the gas tax as a response to the rising gas prices is dumb. And
It was universally
negates,
panned.
well,
Even-
negates the whole. I mean, it ignores the fact that look, you supported all these policies that created this massive inflation in gas. This is before Russia invades Ukraine or threatens Ukraine, and that adds to the mix. And then you're like, oh, well, let's suspend the gas tax, which is less than what the increase was. So no. Just support policies that don't drive the price of gas through the roof.
like higher taxes.
Right.
Yeah. And more regulation on exploration
Well,
and development.
and cutting back on domestic production and relying on foreign production. I mean, that's just silly.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, the whole idea that we should be doing a deal with Iran, Venezuela, Saudi Arabia for our oil when we were energy independent as early as 2019,
which means we could get back
2020.
to it quickly.
Yes.
I mean, we could get back to energy independence faster and supply our markets faster than we could rely on Iran or Venezuela.
We should be demonstrating to the world, especially to Europe, that they don't need Russian oil. They don't need Russian natural gas.
We should be supplying it.
We can supply it all to them, probably cheaper and better.
Yeah.
So that's what we should be investing in. That would be a viable national security policy of this administration, but they're not going to do it because they are so wedded to the Green New Deal, so wedded to their left flank, the AOCs of the world,
Right.
like Bernie Sanders, that they're afraid to pivot. They're afraid to pivot on everything. We saw that in the State of the Union address. He didn't pivot on one thing.
Right.
And he might have gotten a small little bump from his speech, but it's been plummeting ever since.
Well, it'll be interesting to see how this continues to play. I think there's a lot that's out of his control, but how he reacts and the posture that the United States takes officially will obviously have an impact. But at the end of the day, we need to. Russia is the enemy and has been for 60, 70 years.
It's
maybe longer.
never changed. The Cold War never went away.
No.
It just went into a very interesting and maybe even darker phase.
Right.
Where we played like things were good. We invested in the Russian economy. We invested in trade. We invested in openness. Only Putin was playing a different game.
Yeah.
And now he's threatening to arrest CEOs and of American companies that are pulling out of Russia.
Yeah.
And their delegates that are closing down operations. In fact,
it's going to get
my
messy.
former supplier, Anheuser-Busch, just
Messier.
announced they're pulling out of Russia too.
Really?
So good for them.
No more Budweiser in Russia.
No more Budweiser in Russia. No.
Yeah. Well, they don't deserve it. Lighter topic.
Lighter topic.
March Madness
Yeah.
starts today.
Yeah. Only 3 teams from the Pac-12 in the tournament. Can you believe that?
Who we got?
We got UCLA, the University of Arizona, and the University of Southern California fight on.
And
That's
so
it.
U of A's ranked 1 in
They are
their
ranked
division or bracket. What are the chances of U of A going all the way?
I think they have a really, really good chance of going
I
all
picked
the
them in
way.
one of my brackets.
They're talk about a turnaround.
Yeah.
I mean, they are playing incredible basketball, and they're especially playing incredible basketball like in the second half. Usually in the first half it's a little close, and then they come out in the second half, and whatever adjustments they're making in the locker room, they're blowing people out. They came back against UCLA. I think UCLA is actually peaking at the right time, and not necessarily a huge UCLA fan, but they're playing really good basketball. And I thought they might have beat U of A, but they could have, they should have.
Right.
And U of A came back in that game. I think UCLA is probably, Alex, I don't know what you think about this, but you don't think? You don't follow?
He's like, I don't do basketball.
You don't do basketball?
Cheesehead from
they're
Wisconsin. He's
fourth.
all about football.
They're fourth, and I thought that was too low. I thought that was way
Who?
too low. UCLA.
UCLA?
Yeah.
What about USC? Where were they?
They're
7?
Seventh, I think, and they're playing Miami, and that should be. Then they probably have to play Auburn, and that'll be a challenge. But they could beat Auburn. They could beat Auburn.
Maybe,
but. I mean,
that's the
they're
beauty of
fast.
March Madness.
Yeah,
is
they're
that
fast enough.
It's
and they
one
can do it.
game, and you never know what's going to happen.
Yeah, they have the players. They have the talent. They can do it. It's just a matter of what team comes out, and that's true for every game.
Yeah.
I mean, how many times did the University of Arizona lose in the first round? Just inexcusably, a bunch.
A lot of times.
Yeah, so it can happen. It absolutely can happen. It should be an interesting turn. I thought Duke got kind of a pass in their bracket. It seems like they have a pretty good path to the Final Four.
Yeah, I think Duke's got a really good chance. I was just going to check to see if there's an update on the
Give
scores.
Coach K his final glory, even
He
after he
wants
lost
it.
to North Carolina
Yeah.
at home.
That
was an
rough.
embarrassment.
That was rough.
That was nuts.
What else is going on?
But when is football season? Does it start? No, it's not. We got spring camps right now.
Well, spring training
Yeah.
starts today.
Yeah, how about that?
Thank goodness. Oh, my gosh. I was really worried
Major
we were
League
gonna-
Baseball and the Players Union get it together. When you save baseball, I think you save part of America.
You save America.
Yeah. So Dodgers.
Yep.
Yeah. Are we gonna go to a game?
Yeah.
We gotta go hit one.
I feel really good about the Dodgers this year. I think the Diamondbacks are still in a rebuilding phase.
Been on a rebuilding phase for a while.
Well,
But I'm gonna go out and see them next week. I've got a deal to go to out at Salt River Field. So
see Diamondbacks.
yeah,
Good.
so I'm excited.
Well, I'm happy it's back, and I think neither side got really what they wanted.
Which is always the case when it comes
Although-
to Major League.
I mean, so there's now a designated hitter in the National League.
Yeah, that's just.
I don't know that I like that
That's just wrong.
because it's always interesting to see the pitcher like.
It's not real baseball. It's
Yeah.
the DH is not. It's just not
Was
a real
that a
baseball.
player position? Did they want that?
I would imagine they did. I imagine they wanted consistency because now, I mean, in the past you the interleague games weren't a big deal, or they happen few and far between. Now they're happening all the time.
Yeah.
And so it just creates issues. Yeah.
Well, good to have baseball back.
Yeah. And one of the lead you mentioned Politico earlier, and I just pulled it up. I haven't pulled up Politico in a while. And one of the lead articles is Europe's COVID spike has Biden officials concerned.
Oh,
COVID
yeah,
could be coming back.
We may be done with COVID, but COVID is not done with us.
Yeah.
That was the quote from the story I read last night.
Imagine that.
Epidemiology. Yeah. So I guess there have been some spikes in England and a couple other European countries. Oh, I think Sweden or Finland. I don't remember. China is trying to lock everything down, but China's policy of trying to have zero COVID is not going to work with Omicron. It's just too infectious. Spreads too easily. So we'll
what
have to watch
is
Europe.
this a different? Is this a different spike? Is this
Well,
different?
it's either BA1 or BA2.
This is BA2 related wave, and then the next one.
Yeah.
That's what they're saying. Nobody wants these waves, but we have to face the music, and the music isn't pretty.
Now,
Okay.
we've had the naysayers in the past. We've had, and, nobody's been right. Nobody's been right.
Especially Dr. Faustus.
Well, yeah, he's definitely.
He's
where has he
disappeared.
been?
Where is Tony Fauci? Is he scared of Senator Rand Paul? I think he might be.
It's what's fascinating to me is that as soon as things started to look better, he disappeared. And I would think that that'd be a time he'd be like, "Yay! Look at all the great stuff we've done. We did a bunch of vaccinations, and we've got the stuff on the the virus is on the run." But he disappeared. I think it must be that he only likes to give bad news.
Yeah.
Yeah, he probably got COVID.
Yeah, he's quoted in this article. You've got to at least be prepared that we may see something similar here with some differences. But
Yet
there's
again.
always differences. We've got not to ignore it. We've got to monitor it very carefully.
Well, thanks.
This, I mean-
Camped it obvious.
Yeah. Okay.
This guy.
But I mean, you know, the editorial. I mean, the byline is could lead to the return of mass, as if mass
Well,
had
masks
any,
don't-
had any consequence. The first 4, 5, 6. How many waves have we had? I don't know. We're at Omicron, so
Well,
or
and
BA2.
the CDC even has said masks don't work.
They don't work.
Let's get beyond it, guys.
Yeah.
Come on.
So maybe with this one, if you've already had COVID and been triple vaxxed and everything else, it'll be like it'll be less than a sniffle.
Well, I don't know.
It might
Pfizer
just
wants
be-
to do the 4th booster
Which
or the 4th shot. I guess the 2nd booster is technically
to protect against what though? At
I
this
don't
point?
know. Well,
I mean, it
because
seems
their
like there's a
vaccine
general
sucks.
consensus developing that you must get COVID. Like you should get COVID.
Well, I think.
And if you haven't gotten it, it's like the chicken pox. You better just go get it.
Well, and the question
Because your
is,
immune system is
why-
not going to know what to do unless
if-
you've gotten it.
If why are we giving the booster if it's to prevent mild symptoms? I mean, that just doesn't. I mean, it's just typical big pharma.
They just
trying to
want more
soak it.
money.
Yeah, yeah. And why is it Pfizer that's saying, hey, we want to get authorization rather than somebody in the National Health Institute or HHS or whatever saying, hey guys, let's see if we need to do more, and then we can go ask the drug companies to help us. And this is being driven completely opposite of what it should be.
Yeah, that's true. And that's been the case from the beginning.
Yes,
drug-
100.
The drug
Percent.
companies have been pushing
They've
this
shut
and-
down other options, and the government's gone right along with it. So
I mean, at this point, we shouldn't be talking about more vaccinations. We should be
Yeah,
talking about treatments.
and preventative stuff.
Yeah, exactly. We still, you still are not seeing a National Institute of Health guidelines on fitness,
Lose
or,
weight.
or obesity, or diabetes, or all these
I mean,
things.
2 years into this, anybody can lose a fair amount of weight in 2 years if they're serious about trying to protect themselves.
Yeah,
I mean, if people were as diligent about their weight as they were about wearing the fucking mask, then we would have been
There he goes
in
again.
way better shape. I don't know. It's that the Irish side of me came out, and
all the freaking
the frickin' mask, God, I hate the masks.
Yeah.
Oh.
yeah. Well, I mean,
And the TSA going another month. I've got a flight next week, and I was really hoping that the March 18th,
yeah, March 18th
tomorrow would be, they'd lift they extended it another month. It's BS.
Yeah, now you've got 15, 17 congressmen suing the CDC and the TSA.
Well, and actually, the
and
Senate passed. They passed a resolution to lift the mandate.
yeah, that's
on,
under the
travel.
Congressional Review Act. Is that correct?
I think that's right.
Yeah, but the House has to pass it too,
Yeah,
and it's
they
not going to get
won't.
through the House. It won't even see the floor. So that, and Fauci in the same breath is saying, if we get a Republican Congress, oh my gosh, it's going to be Benghazi all over again. They're going to bring us up there and put us under trial.
Well,
Well,
yeah.
Well, so Dr. Fauci, you have no accountability. You're not able to actually answer the tough questions, or are you just going to give speeches and defer and deflect
Yeah.
and continue to be the highest paid bureaucrat in all of government?
All of government.
And yet been wrong on every single piece of actionable items of dealing with this pandemic. Absolutely wrong.
He would not make it in corporate America.
Well, I mean, most people in Congress you wouldn't hire to, answer your phones.
Well, that's true. Hire their staff to answer your phones because they do a good job.
Well, because they're the only ones who really know what's going on. That's why the staffers go work in corporate America.
That's right.
And people in Congress stay there for 40 years
Yeah.
because you wouldn't hire them as lobbyists.
because they can't. Yeah.
Because they can't, they can't even turn on a computer, half of them.
All right. Well, all stuff to
It's-
watch and stuff we'll come back to.
Yeah, but it is St. Patrick's Day.
St. Patrick's Day. Enjoy your day.
So go out, have a green beer, and
pay for it with green money.
and pay for it with a lot of green money.
All right. Thanks, guys. Have a good one.
God bless.